Hey, what's going on guys? It's Mark back in the workshop on Mark's Aquatics. Just chucked some mealworms there at the koi. Happy little campers they are. Sun's shining, it's a beautiful day. Right, what we're going to do in this little video today is we're going to mess around with the newt tank. We're going to take that all apart. I'll put the newts back in the pond. Well, I've got a bit of footage, I'll put that in there about putting those little guys back in. I think we get about probably 50 or 60, I reckon, quite a few. But what we're going to do is we're going to make a shrimp tank, okay, like a cherry shrimp breeding colony, okay, because the tank now where the newts were, it's absolutely spot on for a really good breeding colony setup, okay. The bench tank's got quite a few in there now, and a few of them are buried up, so what I'm going to do is take a few of those from there and put them into this tank here, which I've just been messing around with. Now I won't going to take you through all the messing around with it. I've just chucked a few stones in there, put my little swasitang tree in there from out of the bench tank, and a few rocks, and given the gravel a hoover. Nothing special, but what I'll do is now we'll set you up on there and we'll have a little chat about that, okay. Right, there you go guys, we got a bit of a transformation there. We've taken all the newts out, got rid of all the leaves, all that old stuff and the branch and everything else, and what I've done is I've put my swasitang tree from the bench tank in there, bunged in a few rocks, given the gravel a hoover, okay, and we put in a little bit of Monte Carlo from the tank next door and some other little bits as well, some other little plants in there, can't remember the name of them off the top of my head. And we've given the sponge filters left and right a little squeeze out, but not too much. Okay, now we've got a little bit of filamentous algae there growing on the side, but don't worry about that if you're breeding, because we don't really want the tank looking fantastic. That's why I haven't gone to a really big effort of making it look nice. We're going to let it grow in nice and slowly in time. Now another thing which I have picked up, and I'm not sure if you guys have seen them on social media at all, but I'll just grab one now out of my other tank here. I've kept a few aside so you can see one. What's one of these little guys? Look at that. Now these are dwarf lotus, bonsai lotus lilies, okay. I bought a packet of 20 from Amazon, and super cheap. I'll leave a link in the description there so you can grab yourself some if you want to. But they're absolutely amazing. They get tiny little leaves like that and beautiful flowers on them. And these were germinated probably a week ago, and you literally just chip off the end. I've got some footage which I'll link to the to this video as well, okay, on how you germinate these guys. It's super simple and they look absolutely great. I put some in the 6-foot paludarium as well, and as you can see in the background there, I've put a few in here as well. So I'll just pop that back. But yeah, you can see there you got one there, 1, 2, 3, 4 in there in total, and they're going to go up and they're going to make a nice little bit of surface shade as well, and I think it's going to look quite cool. Now when you start off a colony, a new colony or a breeding colony as such for this video of cherry shrimp, it's imperative that you leave all the algae on the tanks, okay. So if you've got an old tank that you want to mess around with and it's full of algae, they are the perfect thing to start a new colony of shrimps off, okay, and a breeding colony at that. So that's what I've done. I've left everything in there, put a little heater in there, got that up to around 22 to 23 degrees. Before it was cold water because the newts were in there, so I've warmed it up, given it a water change, got everything right, given the bench tank a water change as well. Now what I'm going to do is go over to the bench tank now, and I'm going to scoop out a mixture of buried females, unburied females and males, and then I'll give you a close-up of them in a Pyrex dish before we acclimate them into this tank, okay. There you go guys, I've just come outside into my garden. I've just put 10 or 11 of the little newt babies into this little pot so you can see them a little bit closer. You can see they've got their front legs now and their little back legs are just starting to grow. They're little skinny bodies. I apologise for the noise in the background, my neighbour's just decided to do some gardening. But there you go, but you can still see them. I'll get in a little bit closer for you. There you go, you can see them, their little legs there and that lovely little stripe going down their bodies, and those little eyes and those little tiny gills as well, which you can see for you younger viewers there. That's how they breathe underwater. They got these little fluffy gills that come out from the side of their heads, and they'll feed on all the little micro organisms and life that grows in your ponds and little puddles and things around where they lay the eggs during the spring. And then they come out like this. But because these have got a certain size now, I'm going to put them all into my pond where they can live out the rest of their life. I just thought I'd go to this stage with them, because obviously they're going to need small micro foods for quite some time, and it's a bit of a chore, to be honest, making all these cultures up constantly for these little chaps, when they can get it in the wild, and they'll benefit being in the wild a lot more than being in a tank anyway. So because they'll pick up the things that they want, and think little bugs and things that fall in the water and things, they'll eat them up, little tiny worms and all that carry on which lurks around in your pond. So right, okay guys, I've just come outside and I've put the rest of the newts into this little jug I've got with some water, and there is quite a lot in there. There's hundreds of them. I nearly swore there's hundreds of them in amongst the leaf litter at the bottom there, and they're all coming up round the sides as well. You can see if I get closer, they're probably all scarred because I'll scare them, but you can see how many little dudes there are with their little arms and legs flapping away. Some of them actually look like they're dead, but they're not. You touch them and they swim off. See, just like that, they just hang in the water there and they actually look like they're dead, like that little guy there. Well, what we're going to do now is we're going to take them up the garden, and I'm going to let them go into my little pond where they came from. Let's go. Right, we're up at the pond, all looking nice and still. Now I've cleaned out quite a lot of leaves from this pond. As you can see, well, when we took them out, I cleaned quite a few out. In fact, if you look closely, there's a parent right there. Let's see if we can zoom in on him. There he is, just hanging out under that leaf there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to slowly go down with these and carefully put them back where they came from. And there they go. Look at that lot. And they can live out the rest of their days. There you go. All gone back into the pond. Fantastic stuff. So hopefully now we'll have a lot more coming back to the pond every year now. For a long time to come. And I thought, while I was up in the garden, I'd grab some mosquito larvae out of one of my water butts to feed to all the guppies and the different things I've got in the bench tank. Look at that. Right, okay guys, I have just trapped out quite a few with the net. Just go very, very close, very, very slow behind shrimp. Don't chase shrimp when you catch them. Just do it very, very slowly. And just put the net up to them, and they are that curious they will actually walk into the net. Or put a little bit of food in their net is another way to do it as well, to get them in, because they're so delicate you don't want to bump them, so you can kill them quite easily. So here's a nice little gang. We've got some buried females in here as well. But I think what I'll do is I'm going to acclimate these now. If you've watched my other videos before on shrimp, if not, go back in my playlist. So I've got lots and lots of videos on how to breed shrimp and different things on there as well. But I just thought I'd start off with this colony for you new guys that have just come aboard that might not have seen those videos. So we'll just run over it again. It's quite straightforward, but you've got to acclimate these guys in really slowly, okay? And make sure you do it with a drip line. Just put a little bit of air line in there with an air stone at the end. That'll act as a filter, okay? And then you tie a knot in it and just drip it in, about 1 to 2 drops a second, okay? Do that for about 20 minutes. And then put them into the tank, okay? But make sure you do it slowly, otherwise you will shock them, and they won't die straight away, but they'll start dying over a period of time. They'll start dying on you, okay? So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to put them in a tank, and then I'll set up again and I'll show you them in the tank, okay? Right guys, they're in, and straight away they've gone for the filters for the sides. If you look where the algae is, okay, so that's gonna, and on the back of the glass as well. Some of those females are very heavily buried, and I don't think it's going to be long before we see or hear the pitter patter of tiny little shrimp feet running around in this tank. Fantastic stuff. straight away they're going to work on that algae, and that is what you do. And you don't need to feed them now. They don't need any additional feed whatsoever for up to 2 weeks, okay? I'm not going to feed this tank anything at all. They're going to live off all that algae, and it'll be a couple of weeks and it'll be absolutely spotless in this tank. You won't see anything at all. Everything will be lovely and clean. With shrimp, you've got to feed them, but feed them very, very minimally, or you can really pollute the water up quite quick, okay? Which is what you don't want, because ammonia and things is very, very dangerous for shrimp. Now, all these filters are cycled, and obviously they're going to lose some bacteria because there's not the amount of food and things going in like there was before. But like I said, not going to feed now for at least 2 weeks, and they're going to you'll see a huge boom in the population, okay, because they're going to be feeding away, as you can see. I think we should get some close-ups of these guys now and see what they're up to. Now, if you look in there, guys, there's a perfect example of a female there. You see that second scale back from the head? That's like big frying pan shape. Okay, now that is your female. They got to carry the eggs, so they're a lot bigger in that dish there. And there's a little male just scarpered behind her there. Now you see her, she's working away, taking that algae off of the side of the glass there. And there's absolutely tons of them. They've got little claws, but they've got little brushes as well, if you look. I don't know how close I can get before this silly camera goes out of focus. There you go, look at those little guys go. Like little brushes, they're like sweeping it up and nipping it off at the same time, and straight in the mouth, and they're away. Whoop, and so is she. My finger keeps getting in the way. But look at that. Fantastic stuff. Now I've got a few buried ones in here as well. I'll try and find one of those for you, but there might be one on the back there, and there she is. You can see her with her little berries underneath. Now there's a little male that's just, oh no, it's not, it's a young female. And the way you can tell that is if you see that little orange bit just behind the head there, they're called the saddles, okay? Now that is the ovaries, and that is the little yellow eggs being made inside that young female's body there. And then when she mates with a male, they will drop down underneath the swimmers, which you can see on the one above, and that's when they start carrying them, okay, for a couple of weeks, and then you'll have lots of little baby shrimplets whizzing around in your tank, okay? Now when you're starting off a new colony like this, guys, you want to be picking out your brightest and your best ones, okay? And that's what I've done here. I picked out the nicest ones that I could find. You don't need many, obviously they're heavily buried anyway, and I've been into breeding these type, line breeding these now for quite some years, and they're quite bright anyway, but I've still picked out some of the best ones, and I know these are buried up already and they've mated with other ones in there, so we're going to have quite a few different ones coming out, but they're normally quite strong in colour, all mine anyway. So like I said, I've been breeding them for quite some time now. Yeah, the thing is with shrimp, guys, once they've bred and they lay and the babies hatch, they don't tend to stray far from where they actually hatch out, and you're going to find they're going to be in amongst the ribs in the filters, especially if you're using these twin filters. They'll go in those little tiny grooves there, okay, and they'll just sit in there. And then it's important you get something like GenChem Polytase, yeah, or Biozyme, something like that, and that's going to create very, very fine food particles in the water. It'll get blown around and the shrimp will find them. But we'll get into that on the next video when we've got a few babies on the go, okay? Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there for now. Hope you enjoyed that little video and the newts going back into the pond. I was happy to see them go back to say hello to their mum and dads that are already back in the pond. And as always, guys, you're all stars. Love you loads. Take care, and I'll see you on the next episode of Mark's Aquatics. Bye for now.